So I swear I wasn't doing drugs while reading this book. I did have a fever most of the time I was reading this book. But I'm pretty sure every single character in this book was definitely doing drugs. Hi, I'm Anne. Welcome back to my channel. If my voice sounds a little bit nasally, it's because I'm still getting over a horrible cold I had. In fact, today is the first day I did not have a fever. Finally, I'm up to recording a video, and today I will be reviewing the book Bunny by Mona Awad. This is the book club choice of the Black Hearts Book Club, hosted by very literary Kari, and I just finished it this morning, actually, and I have many thoughts. Also, for those in the Black Hearts Book Club who have not finished this book, there will be spoilers later in this video, so at first I won't be talking about spoilers, but I will be discussing in-depth spoilers, so maybe wait until you finish the book to actually watch it. So Bunny follows this young art student, Samantha Mackney, who I believe is in her second or third year of college, and she is attending a very dark academia-esque school. It's an elite school. She's there on a scholarship, and she's a very creative but also intelligent young woman who is in a sense trying to fit in. So last year she was part of this art workshop where there were 4 other girls, and these girls are called the Bunny. They're basically this clique of best girlfriends that call each other Bunny even if they have different names. And let me say, these girls, I cannot remember any of their names, either their real names or the nicknames that Sam came up with. For example, one of them I think is called Cupcake because she just looks so good to eat. That is Sam's rationale for calling her Cupcake. There are a lot of names that are referred to the same girls. You know, they have their real names, their nicknames that Sam gives them, as well as each of them call each other Bunny, which makes it even more confusing because they're all called Bunny. It's like Heathers suddenly. So Sam has been excluded from their clique last year, but this year she randomly, the second day of school or something, gets a message from them saying, ooh, come to our like weekly meeting or whatever and join us at one of their very fancy townhouses because they're all incredibly wealthy. And she is reluctant to go, but there's a part of her I think that wants to fit in. And even though her best friend Ava, who is a great character and very sarcastic and snarky and makes fun of these bunnies, Ava warns her not to go, but Sam decides to go anyway, and then she falls down the rabbit hole, quite literally, of these girls' cults. So before I get into spoilers, let me just try to rationale what exactly this book is and trying to do. It does examine the idea of fitting in and trying to be part of something. Sam is, in a sense, desperate to make friends and have friends. At first she has Ava, and then she kind of loses Ava because of her becoming closer to the bunnies, and then she gets Ava back only to lose her again, and it's a very up and down story of trying to fit in, trying to find happiness in a chaotic, youthful world. She describes multiple times that the bunnies are very immature for their age, and Sam is like an adult. We're all adults. But to me, all these characters feel very youthful because as much as I would love to think that in college we're all adults, when you are like 19, 20 years old, you may be legally an adult, but you're still kind of trying to figure out your life. And I feel like Sam is very much in that zone where she's still trying to figure out everything for herself, and she's really struggling. On one hand, this book is very much a surreal horror, and you're not quite sure what is reality, what is in Sam's imagination, what are in her nightmares, what is she imagining. She has all these dreams about bunnies, she has all these things that she sees while walking the streets, and you're not quite sure what is true, what is she actually seeing. She drinks a drink from the bunnies the first time she goes there, and I was sure that they were giving her drugs. And that is never really explained in the book, which I was disappointed in. A lot of things that I was like, this was quite weird. Like, where did this come from? Why is this happening? It's never explained because there are some fanciful elements that are just never explained. And I do feel like that is one of the elements I dislike in a lot of horror books is, that it's just dismissed as, oh, this is supposed to be horrific. This is supposed to be over-the-top horror. And because of that, we don't really need to rationalize it or describe, like, what is happening. Why are these more fanciful elements or these unexplained things happening? We don't really have to explain it because it's all about, like, the horror and that visceral feeling of, like, what's happening. And because of that, I was a little bit disappointed in how it was portrayed, like, what was happening. Because you do have a lot of questions. Is this all in Sam's head? Where are these strange bunnies? Trying to understand them, and I don't think by the end you really understand them. And I feel like that's something that mysteries are all about, like solving that and saying, well, what is this question? What's going on here? And then describing it. Horror is more about like that visceral feel of like, this is horrifying. This is gratuitous violence and this is horrific. And you have that feeling of like disgust and horror. And I feel like that's where the two genres separate. And that's why I feel like this book falls very much more into the horrific category as opposed to the mysterious category where things are explained. And I personally, as much as I love horror and I want to read more horror, I do prefer when things are a little bit more explained. And that was one thing I really struggled with this book, is you never know even by the end, is this all in Sam's head? You know, and you can probably say, yeah, a lot of it isn't in her head, but it could have been honestly entirely in her head, and I would not have been surprised. So you have the bunnies in a sense being both the antagonists, the villains of the book, as well as being the mysteries and victims of the book. So let's get into a few spoilers. So what is actually going on? So these four bunnies, they have somehow magical abilities, which is never explained in the book, and if it was very subtle and I completely missed it, which is fair, you know. If you guys read the book and you noticed an explanation, like, I would love it. But basically, they would take bunnies and they want to turn these bunnies into their ideal men. So they transform them into humans. However, a lot of these bunnies go completely insane and they have to be put down by the bunnies. So the bunnies will create these men, and sometimes they are like stupid, where they don't have minds of their own. They're kind of like robots. Sometimes they just are so horrified by being human, they just scream loudly until the bunnies like take an axe and literally kill them. So we're presented with this like big twist. I would say this happens less than halfway into the book. So while it is a spoiler, it's not an end of the book spoiler. And we're presented with this twist. And I'm like, okay, so this is like the big understanding of this book. This is the big horror that Sam is going to have to solve. So she gets into this world of the bunnies, and somehow she's completely brainwashed by them, which doesn't really make sense because in one scene she's very much horrified by what's happening, and then in the next scene she's completely brainwashed by them. She's given up her friendship with Ava, but she dismisses all those friends and just sticks with the bunny for no reason. The only thing I can think of is, well, she's either being drugged, she's being kept on these drinks that the bunnies feed her, or there's something higher going on. Like there is a dark power, like a demon or something, that is granting these bunnies these powers, and Sam is now part of that. And so she's influenced by this deep dark spirit. Spoilers that it's never explained. None of my theories of like she's on drugs or it's dark spirits, none of those are explained in the end, which was great. And then in the end, these are major spoilers for the end, Samantha creates a boy out of a bunny, and she's not sure she actually created him. Actually, she doesn't create him out of a bunny. He's created out of a deer or a stag, and she accidentally creates him. And he turns into this young man. We don't learn this till the end, but she sees a young man throughout the story, just randomly sees him, maybe talks to him a little bit on the street or on the bus, and she doesn't really know anything about him. As it turns out, he is one of her creations, and he likes her. That's fine, and he likes Ava. They actually start a romantic relationship, this deer boy and Ava, and he hates the bunnies, so he wants to seek revenge of the bunnies for kind of creating him. which I don't know why he doesn't blame Sam for it, but I mean, I wouldn't blame Sam for it, but I also feel like if I was created into a human by one specific person, I'd probably be pissed at them as well, so I don't know. And so he does this plan that he's in a relationship with Ava, and he claims to be in love with her, and they're very, like, gooey and weird. But he's also seducing the 4 bunnies, and they become absolutely obsessed with him. So much so obsessed that they kidnap Ava and murder her. I think. The body's never revealed. We never actually learn for sure if they've murdered her, but it's pretty sure. Sam is sure, and when she confronts the bunnies, they basically, like, laugh at her. So I assume it is, and we never see Ava again, so I assume she's dead. But who knows? And then Max, the deer boy, shows up, and basically he says to Sam, you know, kill me, take an axe, kill me, in front of these girls so they can feel the pain that, in a sense, he feels, because they're obsessed with him. They think they're in love with him. And so he decides to, in a sense, kill himself, have Sam kill him in order to take away what they wanted. And so Sam does it, and then she just goes home. And then it goes forward to, like, her graduating, and, like, the bunnies are graduating, and it's completely fine. Like, they're fine. There's no repercussions for the bunnies. For all we know, they're still creating bunnies. And yeah, there was a whole thing about, I believe Max was, the deer boy, was abusing the women. Like, he convinced one of them to scroll something on her skin, like, into her skin, all over her body. And I don't remember what the others were. But so they did have, in a sense, short-term repercussions for their actions because Max was punishing them. But you never see the bunnies actually dealing with long-term repercussions. They just graduate and go on with their life. Sam never sees them again. She leaves, and that's it. So the ending was really lackluster to me, especially since there were so many elements in this book. I was like, oh, this is going to be a fascinating idea. Like the idea of, like, a girl cult that turns bunny rabbits into ideal men where they want to be, like, worshipped and obsessed over. So the premise of this book was interesting. And when I was reading it, I was always interested in understanding it, even though I was completely confused about so many elements. However, I don't think in the end it came together as being a strong story. And I think that is, in a sense, just the genre of horror a little bit. There are some things in horror that it's not supposed to be explainable. Think of these slasher films with Freddy Krueger. Maybe we know the origin of Freddy Krueger, but we don't necessarily know how he's able to take over people's dreams and kill them in their dreams. We never quite know exactly how the magic system, in a sense, works. And I think that is an element of horror. And it's something that I struggle with in horror, even though I do enjoy horror. I prefer more of the horror that is more realistic, is more explainable in a sense, like a serial killer going around killing people. I enjoy that a lot more than a strange, like, magic system that doesn't really make sense. And that's why I struggled with this book. In the end, I think I'm going between rating this 2 or 3 stars. I think I'm going to go with 2 stars just because I disliked the ending and how it all came together. The setup of this book was interesting. The elements of trying to understand what is going on were all interesting, but I feel like in the end it failed to deliver enough for me to say it was summed up in the end well. What changed from the beginning to the end? Sam was still living her life. Maybe she had learned some lessons. Maybe she understood the world better. But she still was living the same life. It hadn't drastically changed. The bunnies were still living their same lives, as far as I could tell. Nothing had changed. So I was a little bit disappointed with the ending. But I'm curious, have you read this book? If not, does it look interesting to you? I'd be curious to know your thoughts down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, like, subscribe. I post every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!